So let's say you tried the dopamine detox, but the effects didn't last. Or you tried to do the dopamine detox, but it was too difficult to maintain and you ended up falling short, disappointing yourself, feeling shame. Dopamine detox is important, and it's important to remove some of the things that are draining us. But more importantly, we have to know how to add resilience, add things that make us more strong and that make us more hormonally able to withstand stress. That's what we're going to go into today. It's methods called voluntary distress, and it will boost your resistance and resilience to emotional stress way more than just taking away the things, way more than the detox. Hang out today, and if you stay to the end of the video, I got 2 bonus methods that I'll go into in addition to the 3 I'm going to cover today. My name is Dr. Gregory Donahue, and this is Zen for Men. Men's mental health put into action. Real, practical change. If you're here, you probably have more questions about men's mental health, or maybe about relationships in general. That's why I wrote the book, Get Out of Your Head and Start Living, your survival guide to men's mental health. It's the fundamentals of the how-to question. When someone told me to be more empathetic, to self-regulate better, or to be more self-aware, this is how I got from no skill to feeling competent, confident, and comfortable in my mental health. I will put a link to that book in the description below. So detox is a great method. Detox is a way for us to take away the things that are spiking our dopamine and creating more of that reasonable dopamine window. But the biggest problem I ran into is that my dopamine window didn't lower fast enough. It is a grueling time period to just take away the stuff that was giving us dopamine and then just to wait for that window to come back into reach where we can feel dopamine again. And I found out 6 years ago now, there are methods to speed up our dopamine reset. So when next time you go through a dopamine detox, or you simply just want to maintain your dopamine levels better without detoxing, these methods helped me to maintain emotional resilience and where I could feel present and feel the dopamine in my day-to-day life. Now, there's 2 reasons that I use this. The first reason that I use it is because I wanted to speed up my dopamine detox. There were days when I could tell that I overdid too much stress, or because I overloaded my dopamine by binge watching or by eating too much sugar things, and I was just in a bad, numb mood. The other reason I started using these methods is because of addiction. It's because of cravings. There were so many things that I found myself giving into without taking the proper time to pause and consider, should I be doing this? Do I want to be doing this? Does this meet my long-term goals? But I didn't think about it. I just did it. There were so many things that I went from craving to action in a blink of an eye. These methods of voluntary distress helped me build up a resilience so that there was a gap between when I hit the craving and when I did the action. So the science behind voluntary distress, and you think about voluntary, which also kind of insinuates on purpose. Voluntary distress is purposeful disrest. It kind of means discomfort, pain, whatever you want to call it. There's a safe way to create a manual chosen discomfort. I know that seems odd to choose discomfort, but when we manually bring in stress to our bodies, it creates a hormonal response that we actually can build resilience to stress, which includes physical and emotional. One of the most beautiful combinations of the human system is that physical stress hits the same system as emotional stress. So if you find yourself feeling a lacking of emotional resilience, building up your physical resilience to physical discomfort and physical distress can equally affect your emotional tolerance to distress and discomfort. Now, it does feel a little bit different, but they do correlate, and it's something that made a huge difference to me feeling centered and me feeling capable of managing my emotions. Not where I was running away from them, but truly feeling them, appreciating them in the good and the bad. The greatest part about this kind of activity is that the dopamine impact happens after the activity. It's not that you're going to feel it during. It doesn't give you this amazing rush of dopamine while you're going through it, but it can last afterwards. And one of the biggest benefits is I call a lot of these methods, I call them preparatory methods because I will do them at the beginning of my day or before I fall asleep or before I go into a big stressful event like a meeting or a presentation. And I will find myself using voluntary distress to benefit my dopamine levels for the next few hours after I do them. So let's go into method number 1. My favorite because it's the hardest and you've probably heard of it, cold plunging or cold exposure. Now I'm sure you've heard of it. So many people have been doing ice bath, cold plunging, cold showers. It's not, but I view this purely from a mental health standpoint. There are plenty of health benefits. We're going to go more into the mental health side of things, which is your dopamine levels, epinephrine and norepinephrine, which is mental clarity and focus. That when you do it, not only does it make your dopamine levels kind of respond, think of it like your body thinks that you're in survival mode. It's like, holy crap, what are you doing? It makes dopamine easier in reach. Even when you think about the idea of walking to the top of a mountain, by the time you get to the mountain, that view looks amazing. Or when you go, almost a whole day without eating, by the time you eat that meal, it tastes fantastic. That is distress bringing your dopamine levels within reach. Then you can feel it a little bit stronger. So cold plunging creates that pain response. And it's for the most part a safe experience. It's painful. I will tell you, my goal is somewhere between 2 to 5 minutes of sub 50 degree temperatures. I usually aim for about 40 degree water. I know for men and women, the optimal temperature is a little bit different, but for men, the science indicates around 40 degrees, 2 to 5 minutes. I usually aim for 2 to 3 days a week. And in that time, the pain response is insane. Now, Huberman refers to this wall that we hit. It's a psychological wall, and that's what we're looking for. You're going to look for how many walls can you bypass. And a wall is where your nervous system is screaming at you, remove the pain, get out, you can't handle this anymore. You're going to notice your nervous system, specifically your sympathetic nervous system, trying to take control of your actions and your body. It's going to say, this is painful, you need to get out. The more you can push yourself past that wall, when you dunk yourself into that water and you feel that urgency and that insane sensation throughout your whole body, you calm, you breathe, you reassure, and the more walls you can get through, that's what creates that epinephrine, norepinephrine, and the lowering of the dopamine. So the more walls, the better, which is why cold showers don't usually create as many walls, because the water is not as, cold tap water is not going to be as cold as 40 to 50 degrees unless you live in an Arctic area or where there's a snowstorm right there. And if you do, awesome. But the colder the water, the better, because you're looking for that psychological sensation of get out, and you choose not to. The second way that I absolutely love doing this, not only for the physical benefits, but for the mental health, is Wim Hof method breathing. Now, just in the same as the cold creates distress of the body, Wim Hof breathing creates distress of choosing to hold your breath in calm. Now, the cool part about Wim Hof breathing is it is hyperventilation for 30 breaths, or more or less, depending on customization. You will hyperoxygenate your blood. Once you go into the breath hold, when you exhale and hold there, you will enter into the psychological battle between, physically, we don't need to breathe. There's plenty of oxygen. However, your nervous system is used to being in control. So when you stop breathing and you extend that time, eventually you'll feel the energy of your sympathetic nervous system trying to take over again. So voluntarily, we choose to calm ourselves and do mind over matter. Physically, we're fine. Plenty of oxygen. We can last a minute, 2 minutes, even up to 3 minutes and plus. What you're comfortable with. You don't force to where you feel suffocated. You reassure it. No, I don't need to. Again, going past that wall to create more resilience. My last favorite way to do this, also because of its health benefits, but also because of the psychological, is intermittent or even longer fasting periods. Feeling the pangs of hunger is yet another one of those walls. I use food to cope so much. I did not realize until I started a fasting practice how much I am dependent on food to regulate my mood. So choosing to go into a fasting period. Now, I personally prefer a 6-hour fasting window. So I will eat from noon until 6 p.m. and then nothing from 6 p.m. but water, maybe black coffee or plain tea until the next day at noon. I will try that for 2 days. If I really want to hammer this in, I aim for a 48-hour water-only fast. Of course, if there's any medical conditions, please consult with your doctor before doing any of these methods, because your health condition may make the effect of this different or more dangerous for you. But in general, these practices are well researched, and intermittent fasting has an incredible ability to detox not only the microbiome of the gut, but also enter into a partial state of ketosis, which is amazing for recycling brain cells and creating brain clarity. But psychologically, we're also pushing past that sympathetic nervous system hunger push and choosing not to eat and do something else instead. So many of us are taught to avoid pain. I think it's one of the mantras of the Western system, just to earn money, retire, and then have pleasure for the rest of our lives, or relaxation. But our systems are designed to balance between pleasure and pain in order to feel the greatest levels of balanced satisfaction. So if you want to make the most of your brain's ability to feel passion, excitement, purpose, we have to add in voluntary distress. Or if you're already doing it by means of working out and you have other habits, use that. But these three methods are an incredible way not only to benefit my physical body through cold plunging, cold exposure, Wim Hof breathing, and through fasting. Incredible health benefits, in addition to builds that mental health, parasympathetic resilience, mind over matter that I had been looking for a long time, for both addiction and to get myself out of numb and the slump that so often I would go through. Removing the stimulation was not enough for me. I needed to add in purposeful, meaningful discomfort so I could feel empowered. I can feel that masculine focus that I had been looking for so long. If you're needing guidance on this, the Wim Hof Method breathing video is fantastic. Wim Hof and Huberman also add incredible insights into how to do different methods of cold plunging. And if you want to know more about fasting, you can go into the work of Dr. Jason Fung, or you can follow the program of the Fit Father Project to learn more about how fasting in different lengths can benefit not only your health, but your mental health. And as promised, here are two bonus methods. First is sauna. Heat exposure. You got cold exposure, so you got heat exposure, of course. And with sauna, you have to have a little bit longer and a little bit hotter of a temperature than you may think. But again, go back to Huberman for guidelines on heat exposure and sauna. It happens worldwide. It is such a phenomenon that it is part of people's daily lives, both the health and the mental health benefits. So, heat exposure. Second, holotropic breathing. It is Wim Hof's method, but taken to a different extent, where the goal is to enter a different state of mind. People use it for hyper meditative states, altering kind of brain waves and patterns. It is an incredible way to focus yourself and push yourself to continue hyperventilating. Always use it within guidance of a medical professional, knowing your own body. Trust yourself. But heat exposure, holotropic breathing, just one more way to get your mental health resilience to the next level. If you appreciate this content, please subscribe, throw a like, throw a comment. Any interaction you have with this content makes a huge difference on the algorithm so that I can make better content and more content for the men who need it. Thanks for tuning in today. We'll see you next time.